6th of May, dear Irene. I was so pleased to get your letter. I can't tell you how many anguished sleepless nights I've had over the whole thing. So much so that the doctor said if I went on the way I was doing, I would certainly end up in a neck brace. It took me several months to climb out of the slough of despond, and I was very much aided by literature and music. I've cleaned the library out of Barbara Taylor Bradford, and found Strauss particularly cheering. I want to put your mind at rest about one thing. Bill and I never meant to end up in bed together. It was all a mistake on the part of the hotel. I did think the suite was rather palatial when I was shown up, but I was tired, so I went straight into the adjoining bathroom and started to undress. Unbeknownst to me, Bill was doing the same thing in his adjoining bathroom. There are two in the honeymoon suite, you see. I came out in my nightie, got into bed, put out the light, and dozed off. Bill must have done the same. We never noticed each other, which of course is easily done in a king size. Imagine how we felt when the light snapped on, and there you were with your suitcase. Now, I know what it must have looked like with Bill wrapped round me. As he said to me afterwards, he thought I was a bolster. But I don't think that was any reason for you to storm out. I mean, put yourself in my position. In bed with a stranger and without a scrap of makeup. You weren't the only one in shock. It wasn't until a week later that it struck me as odd that you'd booked the honeymoon suite to begin with. Bill was under the impression that it was a weekend break for 3 singles. I can't deny that it did lead to a greater intimacy between Bill and myself, but that went the way of all things, including the picture window. But I'm as willing as you to pick up the pieces. Mabel Thrush is dead, as is the dog, and life can be awfully lonely. Yours, Vera.
14th of May. Dear Vera, thank you for your letter, my dear. Although my first reaction was to get in a rage all over again, which I can ill afford with my blood pressure. I did not book the honeymoon suite. I did not do the booking at all. Bill did. So what was he up to? I can only come up with answers too far-fetched to contemplate, particularly as Bill married a girl half his age last year and is now a father again. At his time in life, he looks absolutely haggard, serve him right. Anyway, how are you? I'm so sorry to hear about Mabel. You sound a bit down in the mouth. I'm free next weekend and the weekend after. Why don't you come on a visit? It would be so pleasant to see you again and discuss old times. Well, some of them. Let me know your plans and I'll roll out the red carpet. With kindest regards, Irene. P.S. What's all this about the picture window going west? Surely not. The best thing about your living room is being able to see out.
16th of May, dear Irene. I can't come this weekend, as it's over to Great Potterton for their bring and buy for the disabled, but I could come the weekend after. How about if I came on the Wednesday and stayed till the Tuesday? Oh, I haven't even said thank you for the kind invitation. Of course I'd be glad to keep you company. I'm sure it's very depressing having time on your hands on a Sunday. Karen and Kevin have split up. Karen said finding the crab was the last straw. I don't know to which crab she was referring. Children can be such a worry. I haven't seen Howard since he went to live in the country. When he told me he was going to Derbyshire, I thought he meant for the weekend, not for 2 years. Well, got to get stuck into my gattos for the bring and buy. Never mind the red carpet. Have a gin and tonic ready. Warmest regards, Vera. P.S. The picture window is a long story, and I won't bore you with it now, except to say I was very disappointed. I'd always understood reinforced glass was supposed to withstand the heaviest of flung objects.
21st of May. Dear Vera, I just nipped down to the village to get some gin. I don't normally keep it in, when I suddenly remembered the Cricket Club Ladies' Night Dance on Friday. Being the widow of an ex-vice-captain, I am, of course, expected to attend, and this year I have been chosen to judge the spot prize, so I raced round to see Arthur Snowshall, still clutching the bottle of gin, I realised afterwards, so I don't know what he made of that. And the upshot was that he'd be delighted to have an extra spare lady, so I hope to goodness that you get this in time to organise a long dress, as it is formal. See you Wednesday. Irene.
1st of June. My very dear Irene, here I am back in Castlemere and feeling very down in the dumps. Words are inadequate to express my thanks for such a splendid time. I've often thought penning an opera the only really satisfactory way of expressing great emotion. Sadly, I'm not gifted in that direction, though Karen once rudely remarked that I lived my life as though it were one. Which reminds me, you're a dark horse, keeping quiet about that nice young curate Bruce until he appeared at Sunday lunchtime. That was a merry gathering, wasn't it? I do hope he was all right for evensong. What a charmer Arthur Snooshall is! He apologised so profusely, I don't know how you have the heart still to be angry with him. It was an honest mistake and easily made, when you're 3 sheets to the wind. I thoroughly enjoyed presenting the prize, even though I was quite at a loss with the jokes about leg-side wides and maiden overs. Gerald wasn't a cricket player. In fact, all your friends were very hospitable and pleasant. I don't know why you warned me about Dorothy Bickerstaff. She had nothing but kind words to say about you, including that Clive had led you a dog's life. Your cooking was, well, what can I say? Prolific. Don't forget to put in that recipe for the mulled wine. Your curate certainly enjoyed it. Oh, dear, the phone. That was Karen. Apparently she's coming on a visit. Better close now, as I must scurry round and get some food in. With 1,000,000 thanks, Vera.
4th of June. Dear Vera, you may not be aware that my maiden name was Onions. When I was a child, I tried to honour my father and my mother, who sacrificed everything for my education at Tavistock Road School for Girls by working hard and trying to excel, despite the fact that I have never been a top-notch intellectual. You can imagine my delight, therefore, when in my last year I was awarded a beautifully bound copy of the King James Bible for neatness. I remember to this day the pride with which I took my place on the platform to receive it, in my darned but immaculate school uniform, and for the occasion a borrowed pair of white kid gloves. The school hall resounded with cheers, and I was happier than I have ever been. On returning to my place, however, I opened the book only to see not my name, but Irene Springthorpe's, the girl who had head lice in 4B. Miss Frobisher assured me that it was an obvious error and offered to have it scratched out and amended, but as it was a prize for neatness, I naturally declined. I can never open that Bible without being filled with a sense of cruel injustice. The handing out of the spot prizes this year was to have been an honour bestowed upon me by the club in recognition of my doing the catering for the players' refreshment for 25 years, and carrying on to this day, despite my husband not playing for the team after he died 3 years ago. I can forgive Arthur his mistake, but I find it very difficult to come to terms with your selfishness in not pointing it out and just capitalising on it to hog the limelight. As for your allegations about Bruce and myself, I can assure you that our relations go no further than his kind offer to help me out over a couple of sticky points in St. Paul's epistle to the Ephesians. I trust you will take this letter in the spirit it is intended.
I trust you will take this letter in the spirit it is intended, and that you will try to have more thought for others instead of sailing gaily through their lives, treading on their corns. Kind regards, Irene. 12th of June, dear Irene. I am sorry about your awful childhood. It excuses a lot. I told myself again how lucky I was, always at the centre of a group of friends and admirers. Speaking of which, Eric Glendower is coming up the path, so I must finish this later. He wanted me to sponsor him for a swim. I said yes, as I'm sure he'll never go over 3 lengths. His pacemaker couldn't take it. Last week Mavis Peake cost me an arm and a leg on a sponsored ice dance for pensioners. Actually, she cost herself an arm and a leg. During the rumbas, she fell over and broke her wrist and her ankle. Karen's obviously got something on her mind, but I'll be the last to know it. Well, my dear, I'm sure in a saner moment you will realise how highly I value our friendship. As I said to Karen, I had no idea women could be so close. At last I know what it is to have a sister. She said, where had I been for the last 20 years? Had I heard of the women's movement? Hoping you feel better soon, Vera.
June, dear Vera. Where are you? I've been trying to phone you and you're never in. The worst has happened. Keith got the job in New South Wales and he and Leslie left yesterday. I've been sobbing for days. Not to see my Cheryl Marie grow up is the cruelest thing Leslie could ever do to me, and she's done some things in her time. And they've left me with her house to sell and arrange shipment of furniture. Why couldn't Leslie have stayed to do that herself? And how irresponsible for the three of them to fly out on the same plane. You never catch the royal family doing that, and they are seasoned air travellers. It's 5 a.m, and it's too late to go to bed now. I couldn't sleep anyway, despite the brandy I've taken to dull my emotion. I have never felt so alone. Please come and help me out, Vera. I really need a friend. I'd ring the Samaritans, but I don't know their number. Leslie just rang, bubbling over to say they'd arrived safely. She seems incapable of grasping the fact that if I'd been asleep, she'd have woken me up. I suppose now I'm going to have to face years of sleepless nights wondering if she's going to ring. Yours in distress, Irene.
24th of June. My dear Irene, I nearly wept when I read your letter. To be honest, I had plenty to weep about. You couldn't get me as I was away looking after Karen. I was rung up in the middle of the night last Tuesday by some hospital orderly, saying they'd found my name in Karen's file of facts under next of kin, and could I come immediately. The hospital was in semi-darkness. I believe they're economising on electricity. And a very junior night nurse eventually located Karen in the Margaret Hilda Roberts ward, a desolate room, empty but for a single bed and a do-it-yourself first aid kit. Karen was asleep. Oh, Irene, what a blessing it is that you're such a good friend, and so far away. If I confided this to anyone here, it'd be round the village in seconds. Karen is pregnant. The ward sister explained that Karen had been rushed to hospital with a suspected miscarriage. They'd needed to give her a blood transfusion, and as they didn't have any handy, they'd phoned to see if I could donate some. I was rolling up my sleeve when she said not to worry. They'd found some frozen in the canteen fridge. I can't describe my horror, rage, despair, etc. When she woke up, her first question was whether she'd lost the baby. I said, unfortunately not, but we'd just have to grin and bear it. She told me not to be so F-word stupid. She wanted the baby desperately. I'm afraid I lost my temper. Years of pent-up grief came out, starting with the time, aged 3, she'd set fire to a teddy bear I'd had since I was a baby. She just stared at me, and when I dried up, said I'd better make use of my hospital trip to visit the psychiatrist. I retorted that I hoped the blood transfusion hadn't been infected, but in any case the baby would probably have hooves, as it had come from a pound of calf's liver. The awful things one says in the heat of the moment. Then the sister said they needed the bed, and could I take her home now? That's where I've been ever since. I can't face going out of doors, so you're welcome to come to me, my dear, and I'll do my best to cheer you, but be prepared for a wrung-out dishcloth. Yours as ever, Vera.
4th of July. Dear Vera, I hope your spirits have remained up since I left, and I'm quite sure once you see your grandchild you'll see how wrong you were to be upset over its coming. Nothing can compare to a grandmother's joy, a baby of your very own without the usual messy and inconvenient ways of getting it. I enclose a card for Karen for you to forward. I've sealed it, but there's no big mystery, just a get well and congratulations combined. Remember what I said about Christmas and start looking at the catalogues. If we go early, we'll be back in plenty of time before Karen needs you. And forget Saga, I don't want to be stuck with a load of old people. Your friend, Irene. 4th of July. My dear Karen, just a little thank you note for all our lovely chats. If I had a daughter like you, I'd count myself as truly blessed. But try to be kind to your mother, dear. Our generation had different ideas about things, and not all of us have managed to adapt our way of thinking as yet. I've thought over your little problem, and I stick by what I said. Don't tell her till after it's born. You never know, it might be very pale, and she might never need to be any the wiser. I'll try to drop the odd casual mention about the plus side of our Commonwealth friends, but don't hesitate to ring me if you need a chat. Fondest wishes, Reen.
28th of July, dear Irene. You're right to keep yourself busy. It's the best cure for desperation. I have scoured the house from top to bottom and finally tackled Gerald's cupboard, which I haven't been able to touch since he died. And I wish I'd let well alone. I found some things of a deeply distressing nature, of which I will only say that now I see where Karen gets her depraved behaviour. Howard, thank God, has always favoured my side. He's such a dear. His invitation to visit the Derby Dales came just in the nick of time, and I'm off there for the weekend. He and Anthony live in a converted sheep bothy and are turning it into an alternative health and therapy centre. They make sheep's yoghurt and take turns to comb their flock. You wouldn't believe how untidy they get, he tells me. Well, I'll see for myself tomorrow. All the best, Vera. P.S. My phone's been off the hook, as I've been getting nuisance calls.
19th of August. Dear Vera, what a happy few days I've had having Karen here. Your daughter is such a lovely girl. I hope you've got over having the hump with us now. I had no idea she was planning to visit, and I don't think she did till she was halfway up the motorway. I don't know where you get your conspiracy ideas from. Karen said you'd been watching too much Dynasty. I'm really writing to find out your views on the Caribbean hulls. If we don't book soon, we'll be bitterly disappointed and end up going somewhere we don't like with no bathroom facilities. I hope you don't mind, but Karen confided in me about Howard. I think you're marvellous accepting it so naturally. But it seems strange to me that you can forgive Howard for the way he is, yet can't seem to come to grips with Karen. I mean, any girl can make one mistake and catch her toe, but Howard must be sinning on a nightly basis. Is it because he's your son, do you think? I've always been very grateful for not having had a boy. I know I would have spoiled him to death. I suppose that most boys in Howard's predicament have had a very emotional relationship with their mothers. The house feels very empty without Karen, and I'm starting to have wanderlust again. I could come and look after you for a few days next week or the week after, but not the week after that, as that is when they are sending the bulldozers in to start on the nuclear dump under the golf links, and we're having a sit-in on the 18th tee. I don't know what I'll wear. Hurry up and decide about our hulls. Warmest regards, Irene.
25th of August, dear Irene. I got stuck in the automatic bus doors on Friday and was cursed by the driver in fluent Caribbean. I've quite gone off it for a holiday. As for your obscure remarks about Howard, they are both puzzling and hurtful. I've always known Karen was deeply jealous of her brother, but I had no idea she went around fabricating stories about his relationship with me. What is she suggesting? I can't see a thing wrong with vegetarianism. And if you consider a few pints after a hard day's colonic irrigation sinning, then you're even more narrow-minded than I thought. I'm afraid it's not convenient for you to visit at the moment, as I've invited Ethel Roscoe. She's such good company, always up for a gossip and a giggle. Good luck with the sit-in. I should wear that bathing costume you impulse bought last summer. Should be enough to frighten a bulldozer. Yours, Vera. P.S. I've discovered it is Arthur Snooshall who's been making the nuisance calls. If his wife thinks she's happily married, I can only say, poor creature. The Manse, the Green, Heather Green, 6th of October. Dear Mrs. Small, I wonder if you remember meeting me.
I wonder if you remember meeting me at the luncheon table of our mutual friend, Mrs. Irene Spencer. I found your address in her book, and take the liberty of writing, which intrusion I hope you will forgive in the circumstances. You may be aware that we in Heather Green and surrounding parishes mounted a demonstration against the building of a nuclear waste dumping site a few weeks ago, but you may not have read of the consequences of this peaceful protest. I enclose a cutting from the Micklechester Mercury and draw your attention to the 5th paragraph. A sex-mad granny, 83, as yet unnamed, wearing only a multicoloured Lurex bathing costume and high heels, maliciously head-butted a bulldozer driven by a Mr. Ken Haggard. Allegations that the ageing beauty queen had been trying to warn Mr. Haggard of a small child in his path have proved groundless. The lady in question was our mutual friend. Irene came out of her coma early last week, and most of the injuries are nearly completely healed. However, she is suffering from almost total amnesia, and since she is to be returned to the community soon, I'm wondering if you might help. I know that she regards you as her closest friend. Her first and only words on regaining consciousness were, "You told me it had frightened the bulldozer, Vera." Since then, she has become a deaf-mute. The doctors feel that if her old friends were to remind her of themselves and their common experiences, then her memory and her ability to communicate may be restored. Could you find time to jot her a few lines, even if only to talk about the war, which made a great impression on people of your generation? I do hope you may be able to help, as I am soon to take up my duties in my new parish, and it would be a comfort to know that a good friend
was taking responsibility for her recovery. God bless and keep you. Yours, Bruce.